What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers, and break down what's going on with the charts thus far, what you should be watching for as time progresses. Let me first mention that I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks. And the offer ends very soon in just about 3 days. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the markets. As of right now, SPY is continuing to accumulate, and we're actually seeing a nice little push right here as we're continuing to break all-time highs. And so far, it's holding up, but there are some things I want to warn you guys about when it comes to this rally and the way the market's moving. So I'm going to first talk about some data first before I break that down. Right now, there's a lot of talk about how the S&P 500 is continuing to climb to record highs alongside Nvidia. Nvidia's market cap has also topped that of Microsoft, and we're continuing to see the squeeze continue. So very, very massive stuff are just continuing, at least for the markets, especially as we're seeing Nvidia continuing to march higher. But the question is, what's going to happen moving forward? What's going to go on, at least for us? So I want to break down some more information about this. So as a reminder, for tomorrow, it's going to be Juneteenth, so the stock market is actually going to be closed. I'll still keep you guys updated on the markets and break down more news and such. But going into Thursday, okay, for Thursday, we have more housing data, initial jobless claims, and more important data involving crude. So I'm going to be talking more about that maybe later on. I'll do another video update, at least just to break down how things look for Thursday. But for now, I'm just going to talk very broadly about the larger time frames. And then I also want to mention that for now, when it comes to the way the market's moving, I want to call out that these are the earnings that are coming out, at least for the time being. We just have CarMax on Friday, which is worth noting, but everything else seems very minor. And the market is still kind of fearful. We're still seeing fear making up the majority of sentiment. There's still some people who are kind of afraid, despite the fact that the market is kind of like pushing this high. And we are starting to see some signs of capitulation, at least from the bears, as we're seeing greed hitting these extremes, and the market's just continuing to go higher. So it's been very tough for bears as the market just continues to climb like there's no tomorrow, and it's really making things a lot more difficult for them. But I think that as more bears start to capitulate, this is leading to a big shift in not only sentiments, but in overconfidence, at least for the bulls. And I think that even if the market does go a bit higher, there still could be a complete opposite reaction people least expected that could be building up. So I want to talk about that possibility a little bit later into this video. And then when it comes to the puts and call option positioning, things are still very greedy as lots of puts are still, the amount of puts being held is very low compared to calls. And then overall, market volatility is kind of neutral as the VIX is at a key level. So, what do I see for the market? What is my personal opinion? Honestly, guys, looking at the way the market's moving, I think that there's a little bit more upside potential for SPY. But when you look at the much larger time frames, we're going to pull up like the daily time frame. SPY is starting to slow down a bit. I say this because of the fact that SPY has been just pumping like crazy. If you look at the daily time frame, it's been pumping and pumping and pumping like there's no tomorrow. We have a lot of open gaps that are still kind of left here. So although SPY is bullish and has more upside potential, I would still be kind of careful with this because we're pumping on declining volume and we are seeing what appears to be a large bearish divergence that's developing right here. I think that what's going to likely happen is SPY could go a little higher. We could get very close to 450, but we'll have to watch and see what the reaction is from there, especially as we have a giant rising wedge that's kind of forming. So I predict what's going to likely happen is SPY might go a little higher, but I think that once we hit this 550 area, there's going to be a big psychological shift. And I think that that's when we want to become very, very careful, at least with how much this has been moving without getting much of a pullback. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a slight rejection or a little bit of a dip by a few points, at least from there. We could see SPY go from 550 all the way back down to like 545 or even below that. And we also have a gap to fill, so I do find that to be very risky. I also want to call out the fact that tech is kind of slowing down already. We're seeing some weakness in some stocks like Aapl. And then simultaneously, the QQQ is also showing some weakness while SPY is trying to play out. So generally, it's tech that kind of leads us down. So this kind of signifies that SPY could go a little higher, but there might be a move to the downside that's still building up, at least on the bigger time frames. So I find that to be very probable and a big possibility. I will talk more about that in my later video tomorrow, but just keep that in mind. Right now, we look bullish. We could go a little higher, but as we get close to 550, I'd be watching resistance. I'm going to be anticipating a potential pullback as a strong possibility. So I'll be very patient, but that's something else that's worth noting. As far as Tesla goes, Tesla may continue to shuffle for an extended period of time as we're getting tighter and tighter and tighter. I think there's going to be a very, very big move coming depending on some news catalysts and such. As we're getting closer to the end of June, we're actually coming to the end of Q2. So that's going to signify a very, very big move, especially because we have deliveries coming out. And that's going to likely cause some very, very high volatility. So as we get close to deliveries, we're going to likely see a lot more volatility going into next week. We have a nice inverse head and shoulders on Tesla, and we're actually starting to uptrend. As long as we're above 167, I think Tesla has potential to go up to the 200s. But that's for the more medium term. For the short term, Tesla's just kind of shuffling in this range. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually dip a little bit lower. We retest 182, then try to bounce and just continue to trade sideways for some time as a strong possibility. So I'll be watching for that just to be safe. For Nvidia, we're continuing to climb because we got lots and lots of bullish news about how this is going to be included in different ETFs, and also how some news came out about how it's going to have a bigger weight on them. And then there's also been a lot of talk about AI developments and such. So right now, Nvidia is bullish. However, even though it is trying to upturn and break to new all-time highs, even though it is favoring the bulls, I do want to warn everyone to be very careful, because when it comes to the way Nvidia is moving, you have to note that the higher it goes, the tougher resistance is going to be. And as we approach like 136, 136.5, there is going to be a risk of us coming back down, all the way back down towards 134.5 as well. So I'll be watching for that very carefully. I do see a risk of that potentially happening, as we could get a rejection. I'll be very careful with the way that this is moving, because there is a risk of us coming back down. For Bitcoin is trying to rebound a bit. I do think it's going to be retesting our 20 EMA towards 65,780, and we'll see if we get a rejection or not. As you guys could tell, we've been rejecting a lot off our 50 EMA on the 4-hour time frame many times. So there's a good chance we might come very close to about 65,800, maybe go a little higher and then maybe reject back down. That's the most likely possibility, in my personal opinion. For a few more tickers, we have the QQQ. The QQQ is also losing some momentum right here. Bullish momentum is slowing down, and I'm seeing some signs that it's just kind of trading sideways. But when you look at the 1-hour time frame like this, you will see that we are just getting tighter, and we're actually starting to decline a little bit. So we have a double top like structure. This kind of resembles like an inverted cup and handle. So I wouldn't be surprised if we actually end up dipping back down to 484. And I think that the QQQ may end up leading the way down, at least for SPY and the others. So I'm seeing a risk of downside for this. I think that's very probable we end up dipping, and that's going to be very, very important, because that is pivotal for how things end up moving. So look for a little dip down to 484, and it is showing some weakness, and it's looking more weak than SPY, in my personal opinion. Apple's also showing weakness off this double top like structure. We could be dipping all the way down towards 212.5. If we lose that, I'll be looking for a dip down to 210. Looking at this double top like structure, I'm looking for some downside as a strong possibility, so I favor that a little bit more. For more tickers, we're going to be looking at, I'm going to continue to go over this. Supermicro. Supermicro has a nice triple bearish divergence that's kind of developing right here. It is possible to go a little higher towards 940, but just be careful. As we approach that resistance, things could turn back down towards the 900 area, then eventually 880. So look for a little bit more upside than potential rejection. Then we'll see how things kind of develop from here. But I'll be very, very patient, at least in the process. For Rivian, Rivian has a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure. I think that there might be a little rebound attempt, but we have to try to get back above 11.05. If we break past 11.05, I'll be looking for 11.2. I think Rivian is going to try to rebound at least just a bit. For a few more, we also have the IWM Russell 2000. This also rebounded just like what I was talking about yesterday. We could be looking for a test of 202 soon, and we'll see if we reject off that or not. We're on a downtrend on the IWM, but there might be a rebound to 202, and we'll see if we reject or not. For the IWM, that's very important. So is AMD. We're looking kind of weak right now. When I zoom out, I'm going to actually pull up the 4-hour time frame just to show you guys something very interesting. The 4-hour is looking kind of weak right now. I am seeing some more potential downside. We're at this support where this imbalance is, which is at 153. If we lose this, we'll be coming all the way down towards 150. But overall, we did call this move to the downside in my earlier video, so it's still looking kind of bearish. So just be very careful. Coinbase is also kind of flat right now. If we end up losing support around 235, we'll be dipping all the way down to 230. So I'm seeing some more downside potential after the double top. For Amazon, we're kind of looking more bearish. I could be looking for a dip back down towards 182, and this might actually dip a little bit lower. So I'm seeing some more bearish potential developing. Meta is also looking kind of weak. Could be looking for a retest of about 495. If we lose this, we'll be dipping even lower. So I'm anticipating a little bit of a drop as well. However, it's not as strong looking when you have to lose 494 to turn even more bearish. So I do anticipate we're going to retest and we'll see if it bounces or not. For GME, we are currently just trading kind of sideways, not really doing a whole lot on GameStop. So I'll have to give that a little bit more time. Same thing with AMC. We're also just trading completely sideways. So I still anticipate it's not going to really do a whole lot. So I'm just going to be waiting for that. And besides that, guys, that's pretty much it. There's not really a whole lot else going on with the markets for now. The VIX has this gap to fill down here, so it makes me think the market's going to push a little bit higher, dropping the VIX a bit lower. But then we'll be watching to see if the VIX bounces between 11.5 and 12. It loves to bounce off the 12s historically, just like how last time we hit the 12, we actually saw a big bounce. You know, it happened right here. Can we watch to see if we get a big one again? So I'll be very patient and we'll give this some more time. With that being said, guys, I just want to thank you all so much for listening. That is it for the video. I will give you guys another in-depth update for the markets for Thursday specifically, just made for Thursday for my video for tomorrow. And just remember the stock markets, it's going to be closed for the New York Stock Exchange for equities and also for all these different individual tickers. So that includes like Tesla, you know, the market is going to be closed. Futures will be open, of course. You can still trade those, but you know the majority of people on this channel don't really do that, from what I'm seeing. But it's okay. You guys could do whatever you deem best. I'm not going to be trading tomorrow, most likely. I'm just going to kind of chill. But until then, have a great day, guys. I'll see you guys very, very soon. I'll record another video and upload it tomorrow to give you guys another update. And for now, I'll just conclude the video from here. So have a great day, enjoy the weekend, and peace out.